One of the reasons why I picked badass brainstorming as a topic is because I found it to be a really cool tool that I started to use in my personal business. And last week, I decided not to do it. I decided to fit a client in my normal badass brainstorming spot. And by the end of the week, I noticed that I was super frazzled. I was just disjointed and burned out. And I could tell that my badass brainstorming session had a huge impact on my week. So I made sure that I included it this week. And I felt like the week went so much better. Maybe it was because I gave myself a little bit more space, and badass brainstorming is designed to give you more space in your life, to slow down, to tune in. And when we don't do that, when we go full steam ahead, we might be missing out on something. We might be missing out on fresh ideas and concepts and new ways of being and living. And that's what this exploration is, really. I'll share a quick story about how I came to the term badass brainstorming, but it was actually through my coach, where I had this fear that I was going to create my business in a way that it would be like a monster I had to feed. And I had that fear for good reason because I've done that in the past. I created these systems in the past while I was a weight loss coach that I had to keep up with. And I burned myself out on these systems. I was never agile. I was so strict about them. And so my coach, he recommended that I kind of sit down and I do some reflecting. And what I would reflect on is how I can really have my systems in my business serve me and my clients. It would help me to be more impactful. It was like a check-in. So I called it a systems check. And it was like before you take off on an airplane, you do a systems check. You make sure everything is operational. You check how the last flight went and you make adjustments as you need to. Well, this was my systems check. And so I called it a systems check. I had been doing it for several weeks. It was really helping me in my business improve the way that I was connecting to other people. And my coach reached out to me and said, "Hey, that name is something you can play with." And I was like, whatever, it's, what's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. But he kind of was on to something, and I said, okay, you know what? Screw it, I'll have fun with it. And I decided to call it badass brainstorming because I liked the alliteration. I was an English writer before. And I think that it's a different type of brainstorming. It's a different way of using your mind. Like I said before, we were taught in schools to kind of throw thoughts at a problem until we broke through. And I just found that that doesn't really work. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it kind of works. But most of the time, I feel like the more thoughts that we throw at something, the harder it resists. It just kind of gets to be this wall and it kind of smacks us in the face. So I knew that there had to be a better way to do that. And this really is a meditation. It is an inquiry. And you are going to go into this in a way that you're accessing a deeper level of thinking. And that might be difficult for some people at first. So I use this in my coaching a lot. I see opportunities for it where I don't have an answer for a client, but I can tell that if they just sat down and slowed down, that something would come to them, something would occur to them, that their wisdom was moving within them. And when they tap into that, with me as their guide, or by themselves too, they can learn how to do this. It's a powerful tool. And it's a tool you can use in a lot of situations. Whenever you have a life problem or a challenge or something that you're facing or something you want to create or something you want to hone or improve, this is a system you can go to. And we're going to go through all of the 4 steps. There are 4 steps to badass brainstorming. And I'll talk through some of the nuances of them. So the first step is to ask yourself the most powerful question that you can think of. And that is essential. I find that a lot of the times while I'm coaching, the subtle questions that the clients are asking themselves are what's leading their lives. It's what's giving them the result that they're getting. And even in myself, so recently I was feeling super discouraged. I was just feeling kind of like I wasn't good enough. I had self-worth issues. And I'm like, this is just the weirdest thing because I felt so solid even just a week ago. I felt thrown. I felt like I had lost all of that. And the question that I was asking myself was, why is this happening to me? Now, thankfully, I woke up to the power of that question because that question would give me certain answers. I might get answers about why this was happening to me. And it could have dived into my past because I was like this in my childhood and people made me feel unwanted in certain ways or something like that. But that just wasn't a powerful question. It was going to lead me down a road that would ultimately be unsatisfying and wouldn't give me a new way of being. It wouldn't give me a new relationship to this discouragement that I was feeling. And so I'm glad that I checked myself and realized that that's the question that I was asking myself. And I changed the question to be, how can I be with this in a way that honors it, but also creates something new? And that was a more powerful question. And so we always want to start with a powerful question when we go into our badass brainstorming session. And actually, some of the session, or all of it even, can be devoted to figuring out what the question is. I really invite everybody to slow down and check in with their questions and see if there's another question that's more powerful. And you're not limited to just one question. In fact, as I'm going through the badass brainstorming process, more questions pop into my head. And it's kind of like I'm on this trail. And what you're on a trail of is helpful thoughts. Thoughts that are coming from your deeper wisdom. And these questions are what help orient you towards new thought, new ways of thinking. So the questions it is really important. There's a second step, And this one might be the most important step, actually. And the most maybe challenging for some of us. And that step number 2 is find a reflective state of mind. This means slowing down. It means relaxing how you're using your thinking. It actually doesn't mean having a big storm in your head. So brainstorming is kind of a misnomer a little bit. But it does mean that you become a little bit more quiet and still. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be thoughts, but you're not holding on to them. You're listening more loosely to them. You are letting them flow through, especially if they're not thoughts that are pertinent to your badass brainstorming. You do want to dismiss distracting thoughts. It is a deeper level of listening. You're listening for something new to come through. And that is the next step. Let the answers come to you. One of the ways that you do that is you make the question more important than the answers. It's not like you go seeking for them, trying to uncover them under rocks or something like that. Instead, you open yourself up. You let something else come through. Like in a game of tag, you almost are like running away and hiding. You ask the question, and that's you going out and tagging the person. And then you don't chase them. You don't keep chasing the person in the game of tag after you've tagged them. You try and let them come to you. That's how the game is played. And I think a lot of the times when we ask questions, we keep chasing after them. We keep chasing answers. And you want to stop running. You sit still. I was talking with a client actually, and earlier today, and we were talking about how when other animals get lost, they slow down. They start to sense their environment. They sniff around. And then humans, when they get lost, are the only animals that start to speed up. And that's because we have this fearful thinking. We get into fear and create all these fearful scenarios. And so we speed up. And what do they say that they suggest you do? You go hug a tree. You stop moving around. And it's the same thing here. When you're feeling lost, when you feel like you don't have the answers, you go hug a tree. You slow down. You connect to yourself. You listen. And a part of being in a reflective state of mind is really coming into your senses. Being in the moment, being present. It's very, very important. If you're just in thought land, you're not going to have awareness for something new to come through. So you want to be present in the moment. This isn't like daydreaming, but it is a little bit like daydreaming. You're not going off, but you have that lightness of mind, that creative spirit, like in daydreaming. I feel like kids can be really good at this. And adults really suck at this because we've been trained away from it. We've been trained how to how to think really hard, how to use our intellect, how to harness it. And that serves us in some ways. It's great for things that have answers, for closed-ended questions. But open-ended questions, it's a really bad tact for. The big questions, the important questions. Like, how can I show up in a more powerful way? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? How can I connect with people more deeply? Using your intellect for that is not going to be the best tool because it only is drawing from what it already knows. It's this very computer-like system. It can't create anything new, but we are creative beings. We have the ability to create something new. And it's a power that's within us that's not directly connected with our intellect. It's of us and it's in us, but it's not from us. It's from a deeper level of being, from a collective consciousness, a bigger mind, spirit. You can use whatever word that you like. That's what we're trying to get a direct experience with when we go into our badass brainstorming sessions. That is what we're asking. We're not asking our intellect. And that is one of the things about a powerful question. A powerful question does not address the intellect. When it's asked in a powerful way, it addresses something bigger. And then the fourth step is you document whatever comes to you in a way that works best. You might use a notebook. You might use an audio message. You might use a note app in your phone. That's what I do. I open up a Google Doc and I have my Badass Brainstorming Google Doc and I put the date and I just ask my first question. And you can write whatever comes to you. I like to write it in shorthand, what I call shorthand, where it's just like phrases or single words or questions. Maybe it's incomplete sentences, but it's very flowy. I don't want to sit down and write a whole book. If that works for you, you can do that. I just find that addressing it in that way and documenting in that way helps me to stay in the flow of it. I do want to stay in the flow of the session, the meditation, the badass brainstorming. So you want to document in a way that doesn't take you out of that. So whatever that looks like for you. And those are the 4 steps of badass brainstorming. I'll review them one more time, and then I'll be open to questions. There's also one other thing that I came up this morning that I want to also address too. Let's do that first. So one of the things that I saw in one of my clients this morning was that she was shooting her ideas down before they even could take flight. Basically, she had a no-fly zone in her mind around this badass brainstorming. And I kind of noticed it as a pattern. She'd have an idea, and then she said, well, no, I can't because of this. And then she'd have another idea. Oh, well, no, that So what you really want to do in this space is create a a free fly zone. Like, you can, it's like it's open. There's nothing that will shoot it down. You don't have to be practical. You don't have to be pragmatic. You can dream big. And the question isn't why wouldn't that work? The question you might ask yourself is what's the first step? If that's really the direction you want to go. So that goes back to the powerful questions. So creating that free space inside your mind, letting go of judgment so that things can take flight, things can take wing. You're allowing that to happen. Cool. I want to open it up for questions or comments or maybe insights. What are you hearing? What would help you have a better idea of what badass brainstorming really is?
I would say for me, um, I, I think where I find that ability, like you're talking about, to really slow down, would be in that last question of, you know, I enjoy writing things down. I'm a very avid journaler, but I think oftentimes of what am I writing or to what purpose, or but also finding and actually taking the time for myself, almost having a, scheduling time for me with me to actually sit down and write, and to have that be an experience in and of itself, of not just recording events or, a summary of the day kind of thing, but of that process. And I think handwriting things in particular cause me to slow down, to be very thoughtful of the words I'm using, of how I'm crafting them together. And in and of that process, I think combining that into this, reflective, meditative process, that just really, I think, spoke to me, because it speaks to something that I already feel like I do and enjoy doing, but something that there could be certainly more meaning behind it, more being more mindful about about the benefit of the process, and not necessarily that it's just an activity I'm engaging in, but that it's almost an extension of that thinking and that reflecting and that building some capacity within myself, in and of itself.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, Ryan. I love that you mentioned that you really do want to carve out some time for it. If you don't carve out time for it, that time with yourself, it'll never happen. And you're also speaking to something that's very important, and that's what you're bringing to it. There should be well, not that there should, but you're going to get more out of it if there's a sense of sacredness and devotion that you're bringing. And that kind of a powerful intention is a gift to yourself, and also to view it as a practice of slowing down so that there's no wrong way to do it. Even if you have a busy mind when you go to do it, the process of doing it is an act of devotion and a a practice, a way of bringing a different way of thinking into your life.
I think, yeah, that, and um, the process itself, and not seeking a, because sometimes I write to, I don't know, to hit a quota, because I'm trying to get a page done, I'm trying to get through a date on a journal, I'm trying to get through my thoughts on a story. But yeah, I think that the journey is the product kind of thinking, and that I'm not, I don't know, I'm very goal oriented in the things that I do. So taking a step back and not maybe reshaping what that is, that, finding that fulfillment in the process, which I think sometimes, you get caught up in things, so you lose that. Being, I think that's where my need to find that mindfulness is going toward, of finding that fulfillment in the process as opposed to the final product, or, you know, what I'm trying to create. Instead, it's the creating process itself.
Cool. It sounds like when you are intentional about it, you can give yourself permission to be completely unproductive. And that
Yeah,
actually frees you up to be more creative.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Scott, Div, go ahead.
Yeah, that really resonated for me um, because I just feel like there's so much power in that giving yourself permission to be unproductive. And it, to me, dovetails so much for, I love step three so much. And I think it has to do with partly this very mysterious interplay between, um, letting thoughts come to you is sort of surrendering in the sense that, you are saying, hey, there's something more than what in my own personal mind. And I want to let that come through. And that means I have to kind of be quiet and receptive. And it's almost like a leap of faith that, yeah, there is stuff going on. And I just have to tune to that frequency. I don't have to be the creator of it, actually. I just have to be the receiver of it almost. And when you get to that place, it lets you off the hook that often I anyways sometimes feel when I put the pressure on myself that I have to be the creator, then that's when I get frozen, you know? When I take that pressure off, that's actually when I'm most creative. It's just kind of funny. There's a lot of paradox in this creative process. And you summarize it so beautifully in these four steps. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah. It's very paradoxical. It's counterintuitive for sure because we think, oh, I need to press on the gas, and the harder that I press on the gas, the more I'm going to get out.
Right.
That's not how it works.
So true.
I know. It's almost that you let off on the gas, and that's what gives you the juice. I wrote another article on this where it was called Accessing Creative Genius, or Shifting to the Gear of Genius was the name of the article. And I talked about how you have to take your foot off the gas to shift. And it's counterintuitive, but it's important to tune into that. Be intentional about it. Cool. Anything else? Well, I'd love to give you an experience of it. So let's do some brainstorming in the next 10 minutes. Go through the four steps and whatever you'd love to explore. What do you want to create? And part of it might be just figuring that part out. It might be figuring out, how do I want to show up in the next hour, the next 24 hours? So I invite you to take some time, about 10 minutes, and try it out. Give it a test drive. And for those of you who are watching on the replay, I am going to cut out this section. So I do encourage you to pause and then give yourself as much time as you want. They're going to have 10 minutes. You can give yourself 10 minutes. I'd say at least. Sometimes I take 30 minutes. Sometimes I'll take a whole hour. Get into a flow of it and give yourself permission to give as long as or as little as makes sense right now. All right. Whenever you're ready, you can kind of bring yourself back. It shouldn't be too big of a transition. Actually, when I'm starting to do my meditation classes, I'm telling people that I don't want them to drift too far away. If you have to call yourself back, you've gone too far. And so you should just be able to come right back in. And if you are kind of drifting far away, it might be a sign that you've gone too deep. You want to stay in the moment, in the senses, and come from that space. And you can do too much of this too. I do sometimes find myself, if I do too much of it, kind of creating a habit of not being as present and just kind of having this low level of drifting off, of thinking of something. And so good practice is to stay centered and also to do the spiritual inquiry as a powerful practice too. Cool. What was that like? I'll have maybe about 5 or so minutes for shares, and then I will let you brainstorm as much as you want after this. Go ahead, Div.
I don't think mine was whether to label it good or bad, but I kept on getting a to-do list,
Mm-hmm.
like in my head. It's a habitual thing, which I realized. It definitely wasn't of any paradox or I know I wasn't. There's no agitation or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Being present in the senses, but what's going on in the head was just a constant rerun of a to-do list. I didn't interfere with it. I just saw that's what it was. It's just a to-do list. So I didn't go much. I don't think I had any question really. Because my question is very vague when I say it. I don't know, like clarity of mind. It just doesn't lend to. I don't know. Clarity of mind seems very existential or something.
No, I think that could be a question, but I want you to ask it as a question. So it would be, how can I cultivate clarity of mind? That would be a powerful question that you could badass brainstorm about. And I also love that you're noticing that you're just kind of creating lists and you're just using old patterns of thinking. And you just let that go and let that kind of drift away as best you can and see what else kind of comes up. But I think maybe that would be more helpful, is to really phrase it as a question. And I always write down my questions at the top of the page or wherever I'm writing it, because it might be a trail of questions even, but that first one is a really good one to kind of get things going.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Let's see. Well, I found the process to be really powerful and exciting. And what's interesting, a couple things I found noteworthy about it. Number one, very quickly, I landed on a bigger, more powerful question that I thought I was going to be asking. So it was what you predicted, actually, because you even planted the seed for that to happen. And lo and behold, it happened. And then what was so interesting is as I got into my reflective state, I seem to have a flickering of recollection about something that actually came to me in a dream state several days ago. And I was able to harvest that flickering and expand on it in a way that helped me to answer my question. And it was very exciting because it gave me exactly what I was looking for, which is an overarching kind of approach to my creative process. And so, anyway, I just have to report it was very powerful and effective for me. Thank you.
Cool. Well, uh, I encourage you to, in one, to inspire you to continue it.
Yes.
Yeah. I love when those things connect. Now, I promise you, I'll make a promise that it won't always be like that. So it's like, oh, the sparks were flying on that one, and then the next one, maybe not. But maybe, who knows? Like it,
Well, I was lucky because, like I said,
yeah,
I had a previous spark that I was able to kind of reignite
yeah.
the embers from, and I think that really helped, you know?
Well, and when you slow down, that's when those previous sparks can really take light. They can really take flame. So if you hadn't slowed down, it might not have.
It's very true. No, I think I would have totally forgotten that I'd ever had that, and it would have just
Yeah.
been lost. So
Yes.
that speaks to the power of this process.
Yeah. Cool, Scott. Ryan, how was your experience?
I think it was interesting, and I think yeah, just kind of letting some thoughts kind of hang out there a little bit. Um, I think I got a lot of like tendrils of ideas, and not necessarily ideas, but just things coming to my mind that maybe did or did not have a lot to do with kind of what I was centrally thinking about, and just seeing some different, I think, pathways opening up of, I think, some avenues of thought that I could pursue down around, just some of the things that have been weighing on my mind lately. And so, yeah, I think just taking that time, and yeah, I appreciate your counsel of not having this be too long term of a thing, because I feel like I'm in that state now where if I'm going to go to sleep tonight, and tomorrow when I revisit it, things will have gotten organized a little bit more in my head. So I appreciate that need to kind of take those intervals in between. But I'm excited about where the process has started me out with that for sure.
Yeah. It is a cool thing to give it space, uh, even days of space, and then come back and see what has percolated because things might have changed. And by asking these powerful questions, it just because you stop badass brainstorming doesn't mean that you can't kind of hold them in the back of your consciousness and they can't continue to be worked on. And there's a powerful tool in allowing that to happen. Well, cool. I'm calling you my group of badass brainstormers. So thank you for joining me today, and I really appreciated you coming. And where Scott and I are doing a webinar coming up on self-love. I'd love to invite you to that one as well. I'll send you each a personal invitation for that one. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Div.
Bye.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Ryan. Bye.
Bye.